Oh, sweet, B-roll montage next. Why shoot film? Film cameras are old. Side note, except for new ones. Most of the cameras are old. Film is expensive. It's grainy. Developing your own turns you into a huge nerd. And sending it off costs 13 bucks a roll, and it takes forever. You end up with a mountain of antiques, a drawer full of expired film stocks, and you're in a dusty room smelling ascorbic acid while your friends are making duck lip selfies at their front-facing iPhone cameras. You can probably get a better image out of this than you can out of this. But that's not exactly the point. Photography is art. It can be a simple performative exercise. It can be a way to record things and take notes. It can be a way to celebrate your experiences with your friends. Or it can be art. Egg tempera on a wood panel can be a masterpiece. Art doesn't require precision. It requires expression. And photography is a fun way to express yourself and remember things and celebrate memories, which is just what I said just then. I'm gonna have to edit this. I wanted to have some fun with a vintage camera. This camera. And this camera, which doesn't feel vintage because it's a Leica and they're timeless. So I loaded up all my gear, I loaded up a lot of gear, and went to Crater Lake National Park to do some epic shooting in the middle of winter. Roads montage. On the way we stopped at one of the Annie Creek overlooks. It has these big epic sand pinnacles along the creek. And I took some photos of Annie Creek, and my camera operator took some photos and some video of me taking photos of Annie Creek. The light was kind of interesting. We could see the clouds actually sort of traveling across, and it was a lot less snowy than I thought it would be. When we got to the top of Crater Lake, the snowbank was super short in comparison to previous years. I've seen it well above my head, and this was just nice and short, and I could walk right up and get over to the edge, stopping before the little fence that prevents me from falling. I took some exposures with my Fuji X-T5, took some exposures with my Rollie. I also took some exposures with my Leica. Side note, even when the snow is not high, and it's been a pretty low winter for snow in the Cascades, it was brutally windy and cold, which caused my 70-year-old Rollie to kind of get slow, and the shutter hung a little bit, which can cause some issues. So if you're going to take an old camera, make sure you clean it, lubricate it, maybe even get a CLA done if you're taking it somewhere super hard like Denali. So this is the Rolleicord. It's a twin lens reflex camera made by Werkstatt für Feinmechanik und Optik Franke and Heidecke in Braunschweig. This later became a whole bunch of different names. In the 70s it changed to something else, whatever. But this one is a Rolleicord. The Rolleiflex are actually the higher spec, I think. You can tell this one's a VA Type 1 because nerdy stuff. The f-stop, the aperture, is on the left side and the shutter speed's on the right side. The Type 2s, I guess, did it differently. Also, this has the Schneider Kreuznach Xenar 75mm f3.5. So what's kind of cool about twin lens reflexes is you have one lens that you look through and one lens that you shoot through. You pop this up and there's a ground glass in here that looks like this. It's kind of neat, and you see through the top lens. Then you're like, oh no, I'm a glasses wearer and I need to see closer. So then you have this loop that allows you to look even closer. And then you're like, but I'm tired of actually holding this at my waist. So then You go boop, and you've got a little peep sight. The funny things about this, it's got a bunch of controls that have really terrible labeling. This cocks the shutter, this fires the shutter. This advances the film. This is not the focus lever or focus wheel. This is the focus wheel with all of this stuff that's supposed to remind you something, somehow, about your film. If you hooked up a flash, you would do so here. I think you can unscrew this. I haven't done that in a long time, and attach a remote release. This is what's called the double exposure prevention lever. It prevents you from making double exposures. All right, so let's talk about these photos. First up, we have this 6x6, 6 centimeter by 6 centimeter, 120 format photo taken on the Rollie. The film was Tri-X 400, developed in Ilfosol 3. Looking at it, we can already see, way too noisy. There are some defects. Over here on the right-hand side of the photo, you can see bromide drag. So let's talk about what went wrong. The sticky shutter, not enough agitation of the developer while it was developing. I didn't bring along a polarizer. That's because the Rollie doesn't exactly have standard threads, so you need either an adapter or Rollie specific filters, most of which are black and white filters. So what went right with this? Well, I mean, it was a whole lot of fun. Also, it was good practice. And I brought backups. I definitely brought enough camera, so I was actually able to come out with some pretty stellar exposures, which I'll pop to a little bit later. So if you're asking, is all this graininess actually the fault of the camera? It's not. It's actually my fault for developing bad photos. This camera can actually turn out some pretty smooth looking exposures. And then this beauty was, this is actually a panorama, a handful of stitched together photos from the Fuji X-T5. There hasn't been a great deal of developing done other than just kind of making sure that everything matches up really well, but there's wonderful smooth color. There's a lot of character up in the skies, which you can't really see in that original 6x6. And there's a lot of detail, especially out there on Wizard Island and on the rim across from where we are. You can see a whole bunch of nice lighting effects or lighting. And it's just got, quite a lot going for it. It's got texture, it's got color, it's got perspective, it's got distance. So after humiliating myself by forgetting everything I ever learned about dealing with vintage cameras at Crater Lake, including not making double exposures, we headed down onto the west side where we stopped by Beckie's Cafe for some phenomenal pie. Except there was no pie, so we did not have pie. Instead, we went to very, very close by Rogue River Gorge. We're talking like a quarter-mile drive and a short trailhead where the Rogue River passes through some big towering rock formations, maybe 20, 30 feet tall, but it looks very dramatic. This was a great opportunity to take the variable neutral density filter that I had for the Fuji and take some nice, slow water exposures.
So what I'm doing is using a variable neutral density filter to slow down the exposure so I can take 1 second exposures, which smears out the movement of the water, creating sort of a flowy look.
One of the cool things about neutral density filters is that they give you the opportunity to make very long exposures. In a very long exposure, motion travels across the sensor or the film plane, and you get trails. In the case of something like water, it smooths out the flow. So you get this nice kind of smoky, flowy look, which gives a better sense of the motion of water than if you froze every single little droplet individually. That has its place. Sports photography, getting somebody kayaking down the rapids or whatever, and you wanted those little droplets frozen in front of the camera. I mean, wow. But for doing like fine art stuff or waterfalls especially, and a lot of the time waves, depending on your vision and composition. A neutral density filter is a great addition to your toolbox and can make these just super beautiful things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and next time I'm off to Yosemite National Park, where I'm gonna take big photos with big ass film. Bye.